Uh, so recording now. All right, guys, how are you? Good to see you. Hopefully, a few people will be joining in as we go along. Anyway, so as I said, I want to do these on a weekly basis, check in with people if anybody has any questions or there's anything that people are unsure of in their training, nutrition, or anything like that. They can ask it here. We can check in to see how people are progressing. If anybody, has any issues with things at the moment, obviously this is the best place to ask them. And if you're kind of getting stuck when it comes to your progress and anything in your training and nutrition, best way to get through that is to find a solution, and the best way to find a solution is to ask a few questions. So we'll do a few questions at the end. I want to go over kind of the importance of goals, because I've had a few people talking about their motivation at the moment. The last couple of weeks kind of dipping as the weeks go on, especially with the isolation. And I just wanted to go over a bit of intermittent fasting. I had a question a couple of weeks ago I never got back to, so I just wanted to go over that now, just to clarify a few things about that. So when it comes to goals and motivation, the reason a lot of people's motivations might dip is primarily because they're losing sight of their goals. So that's why I wanted to talk about the importance of goals when it comes to motivation. So if you have an overall goal, if you have something you want to achieve, that's what's going to keep you motivated, and that's what's going to keep you focused on your training and nutrition. It's when we lose sight of that, the importance of that goal, it kind of slips away a little bit, that our motivation will start to dip. So the thing I would suggest and say to people is to reassess their goal every couple of weeks. And I mean, not necessarily like looking to change the goal, but reassess where you are and where you've come from so far as well. So if you look at where you've come from in relation to your goals, so where your starting point was and where it is now, that'll help you see, obviously the gap that you have created from your starting point down to where you are now, which will hopefully inspire you a little bit to continue on with your kind of goal achieving process. The more we look at where we've been and where we are now, and the more we look at the gap that we have created and the progress that we have made, again, the more we can see how much we have already done. And again, when it comes to goals, we're not just looking at the one facet, okay? So if your goal is weight loss, if your goal is strength, we can't just look at the singular facet of, how much weight have I lost, how much more weight am I lifting, and so on and so on. Our goals come in a multitude of they come in many forms, and the progress that we make comes in many forms. So even if your main goal is weight loss, the progress you make isn't just in the weight loss form. So it's not just the numbers on the scale. The progress you make is the mobility that you've improved on, the strength that you've gained, the muscle tone you've improved on, your ability to move, your technique with certain lifts, your overall fitness levels, your mood, your energy levels, and of course your enjoyment on a daily basis with your workouts as well. So we need to look at all those factors to help us stay in the positive side of things when it comes to our goals. And again, when it comes to motivation and reassessing, we need to look at these factors as well. So when you're reassessing your goals and looking at how far you've come, the more we look at all these other factors, our mobility, our movement, our fitness levels, our strength, the more we will see our progress, and the more we will hopefully stay motivated. If you find your motivation dipping, we need to look and reassess at your goals. Now, because we are in isolation at the moment, our equipment and our resources when it comes to our fitness and all is slightly limited. So we need to reassess in the sense that what can we do to still achieve those goals? Now, if your goal is strength training and you don't have a lot of weights, yes, you are going to have your goal slightly. So what I would suggest in that area kind of goes hand in hand with, say, like muscle building, if that's somebody's goal as well. If you're looking to build muscle and get stronger, focus more on your mobility, your fitness levels, getting your nutrition on track, and kind of learning new things when it comes to that. We need to look at other aspects of those goals to help stay on track with them and help stay motivated. When it comes to fat loss, when it comes to weight loss and fitness, we do have a little bit more that we can work with, even if you do have limited equipment. We increase the volume of the workouts. We focus on higher volume workouts and more intense workouts. And with focusing on that, we're going to improve our fitness levels and our muscular endurance, and we can focus more on our movement. We can still lose weight even when we have limited equipment. We just need to focus a little bit more on nutrition. So it's about shifting the perspective of what you're doing a little bit more. The main thing that's probably getting people down is just, you know, the repetitiveness of the environment that we're in, and we don't get that break of going to a different place to do our workouts and all. So the main thing I can suggest for that is just, obviously, since they are lifting a little bit more of the restrictions and allowing us to move around a little bit more, is to get out a little bit more. That's the main thing that we can really do. So like, we're very limited in our options when it comes to that. We can shift our focus, and we can refocus on different areas, which is great for, you know, staying on track with goals. But when it comes to, you know, being in the same area and the monotony of that, the main thing that we can do is just get out a little bit more and try and discover different areas around where we are within, you know, the radius that we are allowed to travel. That's the main thing with that. So when it comes to motivation, refocus on your goals, reassess your goals, look at your goals, look at what areas you can attack, and look at the areas that you can improve on within that. And that's probably the best way to refocus your motivation. Look at what you want to achieve, and look at the different areas that you can achieve that, and look at how you can improve different areas that are going to help you towards those goals. Okay, so when it comes to motivation, focus on your goals. The main thing that's been keeping my training on track, even on days where I don't want to train, is that my overall goal has stayed the same. I'm lucky enough to have enough equipment that I can still focus on my main area of training. But yes, the motivation on some days is not there. But the thing, when your motivation is really low on those days and you don't want to train, there's plenty of days where I don't want to train whatsoever. I'd rather just, you know, maybe go for a walk with my daughter, or, you know, get a coffee in the village and then just sit on my arse for the rest of the day. There's plenty of days that happens. But just going through the workout anyway, even when I'm not in the mood, you're going to feel better at the end of the workout anyway. So even when your motivation or your mood or whatever is at its lowest, if you go through the motions, like going through the motions of doing the workout and still tracking your food and still doing all that stuff, even though you really don't want to, it's still going to keep you on track with your goal. So you're going to feel better because you stayed on track with your goal. Where if you don't stay on track and you miss that workout and you eat crap, you're going to feel worse. So you're just snowballing the mood, and you're snowballing the emotions that you have that are bringing you into that negative area. Where if you go through the motions, you eat better that day anyway, you do your workout anyway, even though you don't want it, at the end of it all, you're going to feel slightly better, because at least you didn't miss out on what you intend to do in the long term, which is achieve that goal. Okay, cool. Nice question. We'll get to that in a little bit, Rayoni. Yeah, so like going through the motions, even though you don't want to do it, is still going to improve your mood and improve your motivation overall, because you're still following the steps that you need to follow to achieve your goal in the long term. Where if you don't follow through, you don't do your workout, you know, you eat bad and you don't track everything, then you are going to feel worse overall. So yeah, big issues that IDs. What IDs is big issue that is. Okay, cool. So yeah, when it comes to motivation, stay on track and just follow through anyway, even when your mood is low. I'll get to the questions at the end. But yeah, my main advice to anybody is, even when your mood is low, even when you don't want to do something, if you do it, that's going to help out overall. And if you're finding that it's a weekly thing that your motivation is low, just reassess your overall goals. What is your goal, and are you taking the steps to achieve that goal? So if your goal is weight loss, if your goal is fitness, if your goal is strength, what are you doing to help that? Again, when you can focus on the goal itself, like strength or muscle building or anything like that, let's focus on slightly different areas. Can we improve our mobility so that when we do get back to the gym, we're limiting our injury, so we are going to be able to train longer, sustaining our training longer without any kind of fallbacks as well. So little things that will help assist us on the way. The second thing I was going to talk about today was intermittent fasting. I had a question a couple of weeks ago when Anna was actually on doing the talk. So this was after Anna was on, and I never got a chance to get back to it. I wanted to get Will O'Donoghue from Neuro Pain Clinic on, but I haven't been able to schedule that properly with him. So once I can, I will get him on. But that was kind of the plan originally. So what I said I'd do was just I could go back to that question in the future. So I'm getting back to it now. So it's a bit of a delayed answer. So intermittent fasting, like any kind of nutrition approach or diet or whatever, is no magic cure. I have used it in the past for clients. There is no magic reason that it works. Plain and simple, you're restricting your calories by restricting the amount of hours you have during the day to eat. Now, during isolation, intermittent fasting can help because it can give you a structure to your day. So a lot of people, when they are working Monday to Friday, is usually when they eat their best. So their schedule is really rigid. You work from a set amount of hours from 9 to 5 or whatever it is. And so because of that, your meal planning is a little bit more rigid because you have that schedule in place. And then it's usually the weekend where they have no schedule that their eating habits become a little bit worse for wear. So if you give yourself a daily allowance of time that you can have food, so whether some people, break it up however you want. So some people can break it up where they eat in the morning, they eat in the evening time after work, and they don't eat during work. Some people, they won't eat their first meal till maybe midday, so 11 or 12 o'clock, and then they'll give themselves from 12 to 7 to have their daily food intake. Now, obviously, during that time, you still want to eat as high a quality food intake as possible. You don't want to just go to junk food and so on during those times. But by restricting the amount of hours during the day that you allow yourself to eat, you are limiting the amount of calories that you can take in during the day, even, no matter how hard you try. So intermittent fasting is just really a way of giving yourself some structure during the day so that you don't overeat in those kind of troublesome hours. So if you find when you get home, you have your dinner, then say 7:30, 8 o'clock, you start snacking, this is actually a good solution for that. If you start snacking during those hours, if you limit yourself that you can only eat between the hours of 12 to 7 or 12 to 8 o'clock, and then after that, you cannot have any more food, and you stick to those rules, then it's very hard to overeat. That's the simple way of putting intermittent fasting. Now, some people will do long fasts of 24 hours or this, that, and the other. I'm not really into that. I think that much restriction leads to a lot of overeating at the end of it. But if you've done a period of like 10 to 12 hours, including your sleep period, so again, from 8 o'clock till 10 o'clock or 12 o'clock the next day, that again is going to limit your food intake overall. And it's going to prevent you from overeating and over-consuming calories. Every single diet solution, every single nutrition approach, no matter what it is, whether it's paleo, ketogenic diets, vegan, vegetarian, no matter what the food approach, the reason that you lose weight on those approaches is because you're restricting calories. Intermittent fasting is just another way of restricting your calorie intake during the day. So by giving yourself that little bit of extra structure that you are not allowed to eat during these times, and you can set a clock so that as soon as it beeps, you stop eating, you are restricting your calorie intake. So if you find you snack at certain times during the day, especially with the isolation, because you're in the same environment, and because you're in the same environment, your brain isn't being stimulated as much, and because your brain isn't being stimulated as much, you get bored. Because you're bored, your brain tricks you into eating or drinking or doing something just to get you to move around a little bit more. By adding in that little bit of structure and limiting the amount of food you can have at certain times during the day, it prevents you from overeating. So when it comes to snacking, if you eliminate the times that you snack, if you eliminate them completely off the board, you're not allowed to eat during those times, just less chance of snacking. So that's really intermittent fasting. It's a simple approach. I've done it with one of my clients, Craig. He has spina bifida. He's still living at home. His mom helps him a lot. He, can't really use one of his legs, so sometimes he has to be in a wheelchair for a long period of time. And Craig, because he's living at home, his mom kind of takes care of all the cooking. So for a while, he finds cooking a little bit hard, obviously, because the counters are a little bit higher for him. So instead of totally upheaving his mother's cooking routine, I just limited the amount of hours during the day for him to eat food. When he went out to a cafe, he made better choices with food. When he was having his dinner, he asked his mom to make, better, have a bit more veg and less fried food and so on during the day, and no takeaways on the weekend. So he done other factors to limit the calorie intake, but overall what he really done was he restricted his eating from 12 till 7, I believe it was. So from 12 to 7 was his eating hours, and it helped him get off that little bit of extra weight. So if you find you snack a lot at nighttime, if you find you get really bored in the later evenings, and that's when you snack, if you eliminate those hours, that's what intermittent fasting can do for you. Again, it's not a special kind of approach. There's no magic reason that works. You're limiting the amount of hours you can eat, so you're limiting the amount of calories you can take in. Okay, that's the intermittent fasting. Just wanted to go over that a little bit again because I had a few questions from one of my clients a while ago and I never got around to it, so just wanted to go over that now. So guys, you had a few questions. Where's my chat? My computer's restarting, so I can't check it from there. I'll start with Rayoni. Struggling with boredom, snacking, good ideas for food that will be filling for longer. So the main thing, Rayoni, with filling food is one of the main sources of food that is very satiating is protein. So the reason that high protein diets are always suggested when it comes to anybody who is looking either for weight loss or anything like that is to increase the protein intake. So one, it's going to help recover from training sessions, and two, it's satiating. So it prevents you or at least staves off hunger for that little bit longer. So snacking is usually your body telling you either, again, boredom will cause you to snack because, again, we're in the same environment a lot. And in the evening times, we generally just sit down. So your body sometimes will get a little bit antsy. Your brain will send signals to your body to tell you that you're hungry, where really your body just wants you to do something. Sometimes you will feel hungry because you're thirsty. So if you're slightly dehydrated and you're not drinking enough water, your body will tell you to eat because your body also gets water from certain foods. So when we eat, we're not just taking in nutrients from food, we're also getting a little bit of hydration as well. So sometimes your body will trick you into that. So drink a lot of water, eat a high source of protein. And if you are going to be snacking, try and snack on fruit and yogurt. I think that's the best that people can do. If you go for like full fat, not full fat, if you go for 0% fat Greek yogurt, if you go for Skyr yogurt, high protein yogurts, and a bit of fruit like strawberries or blueberries or anything like that, that's good to snack on because fruit is quite low in calories. You can have a good chunk of it and you still won't be taking in a ton of calories, where if you have a pack of crisps or a chocolate bar, you could be taking in a couple of hundred calories per crisp or bar, and all it really is fats and carbs. Where if you're going for the fruit, you're going to get some fiber, which is going to fill you up. With the yogurt, it's going to give you a good source of protein. The protein will help fill you up and satiate that hunger a little bit more. And again, they are lower calorie sources. So those are good options when it comes to snack foods. Fruit and yogurt are going to help you a little bit more. They're lower in calories, and it's better to snack on that than anything else. If you wanted to add in a scoop of chocolate flavored protein, if it's kind of sweeter stuff that you're looking for, that'll help out with the cravings for chocolates a little bit as well. So good chocolate flavored protein will help out with that. And yeah, those type of things are going to help out. But generally during the day with most of your meals, if you get a higher protein intake and you're drinking lots of water, that's going to stave off hunger a little bit more as well. So if you find you're really hungry later on in the day, if you have a higher protein intake, that will help prevent that. But when it comes to snacking, you can't really go wrong with fruit. And anybody who says that fruit makes you fat must be eating like truckloads of fruit during the day. So it's very hard to eat 1,000 calories of fruit, especially when you look at what a couple of hundred calories of fruit is going to look like. It's a fucking huge bowl. And you know, I don't know how many people can eat that much fruit during the day. Okay, so if you're going to snack on fruit and high protein yogurts, they're lower in calorie options, and drink plenty of water during the day, eat lots of protein during the day, and that'll help stave off any hunger. So if you are getting bored and you're finding you're snacking, at least just snack on fruit. It's sweet, so it's going to curb that sweet kind of sugary cravings that you have. If you're using yogurt, throw in a scoop of chocolate protein, that'll again get, help with the cravings a little bit as well. And that would be my suggestion. Is high protein sustainable, or should you head towards more balanced diet? Yeah, high protein is very sustainable. Like there is nothing whatsoever. There's no drawbacks to that. A lot of the stuff that people say about like that people say about taking in too much protein is usually bullshit. So like, kidney problems and stuff like that, that's all bullcrap. And as well, like when I say high protein, like I take in 200 grams. I think I'm at about 200 grams of protein per day, 205 grams of protein per day. So it should be between 1.5 to 2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight on average. So I'm at about 2.25 or more. So like if I was at 2 grams, it'd be about 160 grams of protein. No way, I'm almost at 90 kilos. So yeah, it's about 2 grams or a little bit over of protein per kilo of body weight on average that you should be taking in if you're looking to build muscle, sustain muscle, get stronger, and so on. With that, I'm still taking in and around 300 to 400 grams of carbs, and I am still taking in 100 grams of fat. So when it comes to percentages, my protein intake is high, but my carb intake is higher, and my fat intake is a little bit lower. So I'm still getting in carbohydrates. We're not eliminating carbs. We're not trying to get rid of any other form of food. So we're not getting rid of fats. We're not getting rid of carbs. We're just increasing our protein intake a little bit more to help satiate hunger and to help repair from training. If you are doing any type of training, you need that extra protein to help recover, for your muscles to recover and to stave off hunger. So as long as we're not eliminating any other of those nutrients or carbs and fats, yes, it's very sustainable. If I was to say ketogenic diet where you don't have any carbs or you have less than 30 grams a day, that's a much harder sustainable diet. I've done paleo diets in the past personally, and I've prescribed it to a few clients. It's good for a short period of time, like 4 to 6 weeks. You'll drop a lot of weight because you're restricting your food intake a lot and you're restricting your calories, but it's very hard to sustain that. Irish people especially love potatoes, so we like our carbohydrates. So getting those carbs in is going to help be able to sustain our diets a little bit more. So without eliminating them and just increasing our protein intake, yeah, it's definitely a much more sustainable way than eliminating any other nutrients as well. So I'm going to get to your other question. What's good carbs protein ratio? The thing is about a good carb protein ratio is that it can be very personalized. There's no magic number really. Now they might suggest certain things for like athletes where, that's kind of like a 3-2-1 type thing with carbs, fats, and proteins and so on and so on. It's very personalized, Kieran. So you can't, like, for a protein, you would go 1.6 to 2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight. And that's lean body weight, okay? So you try not to factor in any body fat. So you would get somebody's lean body weight, you would calculate out their protein intake based off of that. And then the rest can really be split based off of personal preference. So if somebody wants more fats, if somebody works well with lower carb intake, then you can do that. So some people, I could give a ketogenic style diet or a paleo diet, they'd be great with that. Some people cannot do that for even a week or two. So it's very personable. The main thing really is to eat good quality sources of any of those. So when I'm going for carbohydrates, I'm going for the best source. What's the best source? Is a loaf of bread better than rice? Well, rice is closer to the original source, so obviously it's better quality carbohydrate source. Is fruit better than a bag of Starburst? Well, obviously, it's just about making those choices. What's the better quality? Post workout, we need more carbs. I like getting a little bit of carbohydrates in before workout as well. So those are the best times to consume them to make sure that I'm not overeating. A little bit of carbs in the morning isn't bad either. There's no bad time to have these, but if I'm having bad quality carbs, the calorie intake is going to be higher. If I'm having good quality carbs, the calorie intake is going to be lower. So it's all about quality more so than how much you're taking in. So So good quality carbs, good quality fats, good quality proteins, and don't worry too much about the ratios. Just make sure that you're eating a good portion of ratios. Usually what I would say to the average person that's not weighing and measuring food, if you want a set calorie amount and a set macro amount, I can't prescribe that, but use your hands. So palm of your hand, that's the size of your protein intake. A cupped hand is the size of your carbs. If you want a higher, you would go for like a higher carb intake. You would go for two kind of palmfuls of carbs, and then your fats, size of your thumb. That's usually what we would prescribe to split your plate up into. So there's no real kind of magic ratio or magic percentage. It's really personal. Some people go high carbs, some people go lower carbs, but the main thing that should be kind of set is make sure you're having high protein intake and good quality of either. It doesn't really matter how you split it up as long as the quality is good. You were asking me one more question earlier on about goals. Do I write goals down? What is my goal setting process? So this is the one thing that I have gotten from every single I've gotten this more from business courses really in recent times than fitness courses, but it's also something that a lot of trainers will talk about as well. When you're setting your goals, your goal needs to be smart. And what I mean by that is that your goal should be a specific thing. Okay, so when people come to me and they say, oh, I want to lose weight, that's not specific at all. And we always use the analogy of the taxi man. If you get into a taxi and you say to them, I'm going to Dublin, they're not going to move until you actually give them a place to go. If you say, I'm going to town, they're like, well, that's better, but where in town? I'm going to Temple Bar. You're getting more specific. Take me to the Starbucks in Temple Bar. If you get as specific as possible, then you can finally make that journey, okay? So your goal has to be a specific goal, okay? Get it down to, the closer you can get it down to a specific number, the easier it is to digest for yourself, and the easier it is to plan out what you need to do to get there. So if somebody says to me, I want to lose, like my client Stacey, she came to me and she said, I want to lose 100 pounds in a year. Now she's down, the last time we checked, she's down like 63, 64, and we're about 6 months in, so we're on target. But she was very, very specific. And the fact that she said 100 within a year, it allowed us to break it up into smaller digestible chunks. So 100 in a year, you have 12 months to break that up into. So, we can do, 10 pounds or less a month. And again, I told her that's a very specific number. So if we don't hit it exactly, we know how to plan going ahead further. So we can break it up into smaller chunks and plan ahead even more. So as long as your goal is specific, you can break it up into more digestible, easier, consumable chunks, and you can plan out your journey to achieve that goal a little bit easier. Your goal has to be measurable. So there has to be a time frame. If you say, I want to lose 100 pounds, but you have no time frame, then again, it becomes a little bit harder to achieve it because you don't know when you want to achieve it by. So if I say I want to compete in next year's European Championships, I have a specific time frame to get to that. So if I want to qualify for the Irish team, I know how long I have to do that. I can break it up into a timed goal. So again, there has to be a measurable amount of time. It has to be measurable in some way, shape, or form. I know how to measure 100 pounds. I know how to break it up. I know how long it's going to take. Okay, so I need to be able to measure that goal in every way, shape, or form. So I know how much it is. I know how much I have to lift. I know how much I have to do this. It has to be measurable in every single way. It has to be achievable. So if I say I want to go to space and land on the moon, probably a bit late to do that, So it has to be a realistic, achievable goal, okay? Can I qualify for the Irish team? Yes. Can I lose 100 pounds? Yes. Can I do it in a year? Yes, possibly. Like, again, I had to have this conversation with Stacey when she said that to me, that she wants to lose 100 pounds in a year. So you can lose 100 pounds in a year, but there is a chance that we may undershoot it a little bit or even a good bit, depending on how you react and depending on what happens during that year. So obviously, since, COVID-19 all happened, that's going to slow down her weight loss goal. So we're going to have to look at a little bit longer than a year. So things like this happen. So yeah, it's achievable, but we have to be realistic about it. Okay, and that's the next point. It has to be realistic. It has to be achievable and it has to be realistic. Again, if somebody comes to me and they say they want to be the world's strongest man and they've never lifted weights in their life, they're in their mid 40s and you know they barely get off the couch, that's not an achievable goal for somebody in their mid 40s. Now, could they compete in strongman? Could they compete in powerlifting? Yes. Could they become the strongest man in the world? There's a lot of drugs that they have to take to achieve that. So, you know, there's a chance that it's not that achievable, you know. And again, it has to be realistic. You know, you cannot just, you know, again, walk into the gym, never lifting a weight in your life and say, I'm going to beat Usain Bolt in a foot race, you know. It has to be a realistic goal and there has to be a time frame to it as well. So it has to be a specific goal, it has to be measurable, it has to be achievable, you know, it has to be realistic and it has to have a time frame. So that when you're writing out your goal, if it meets all those criteria, yes, writing it down is going to help you as well. I write down, I don't do like monthly, like I do monthly goals when it comes to business and stuff like that. Like I sit down with my mentors at the end of every month and we go, what's your goals for this month? What do you want to get? You know, how many clients you need? How do you want to expand your business? What are your goals going forward? I do it more so with my business when it comes to my training. I don't necessarily write them down. I write down a yearly goal for my training. I find I've always been fairly focused on training, so I don't need to write them down as much. When it comes to work and when it comes to the business, I do have to write them down a little bit more, and I do have to be a little bit more hands-on with that, because I can get very distracted very easily. So writing down stuff prevents me from getting distracted. But when it comes to my fitness goals, I write down a yearly goal at the start of the year. I think it was I started doing that maybe 2 years ago. After competing at a competition on the way back, I wasn't happy with my performance, so I wrote down what I wanted to achieve, and I just kept on chipping away at it until I did achieve it. I think it took like almost a year to achieve the goal that I had written down, and then after that, I wrote, you know, I would write another one, but I wouldn't do it as regularly for my fitness goals. But for some people, it helps to write it down every month or so to reassess, see where you are now, see what you need to do to achieve that goal, and to plan it out. So you can do it monthly, you can do it weekly, and again, if you break it up into more digestible chunks, it makes it easier to achieve. So again, like Stacey, for 100 pounds, we break it into each individual month. We break it up into each individual week. How much do you have to lose each week? How much do you have to lose each month? How much do you have to lose every 3 months, 6 months, and so on? The more you break it up, the more it is easily digestible, and the more you can, you know, digest it in your head more so than anything. And then the easier it is to plan. So for some people, writing it down more regularly is going to help. For some people, writing it down less regularly is okay with them, as long as they have it in the back of their head and they have it written down somewhere. Some people like to do, like, you know, kind of a vision board necessarily. You don't necessarily have to do that. You don't have to have it plastered everywhere. But some people, if they write it up, say on the back of the bathroom door, they have a little kind of post-it or a little kind of calendar thing where they write down their goals. Every time they wake up and they see that first thing in the morning, it reasserts it back in their head every single day. So that helps out a lot for some people. For some people, just writing it down in a book, like if you have a diary that you have, or, you know, even your computer, if it's a note on your computer screen that you have every day, that's another thing that you can do as well. So yeah, that's when it comes to goals, you can write it down, you can reassess, you can post it somewhere on a regular basis. You can have it on the back of your door, you can have it on your laptop, you can have it on your phone as your save screen. For some people, seeing it every day helps them reassess and helps them process it every day and focus on it every day. For some people, simply writing it down once and not looking at it for a couple of weeks, as long as they wrote it down, the act of writing it down is enough. So again, it's going to differ from person to person. Try out different ways of doing it. If you, again, write it down on a calendar that you see every day, try that for a couple of weeks. And if that makes no difference, well, then maybe you don't care enough about the goal. That's the one thing about anything that you want to achieve. You have to really care about it to actually achieve it. So if you're not passionate about it, if you don't think about it on a regular basis anyway, maybe you're not as passionate about it as you thought in the first place. So really sit down when you're planning out a goal or you're looking at, well, what do I want to achieve? Really sit down. And the first thing to really do is, do you have any emotional attachment to it? So is this something you really want to do? Is this something that is going to make your life better? Is it going to make you feel better? Like, you have to look at it from all these angles. So whether you write it down or not, that's the most important thing. Is there an emotional attachment to it? And if there isn't, you probably don't want to achieve it, you know? So you really have to sit down and focus on that more so than anything. And if you can find some emotional attachment to it, some people focus on, you know, things like, the guys in, some guys, what's the name of their gym? Some guys now in elite performance, I think it is, out in Blackrock. They have a woman, and she done a talk for the guys, talking about why she joined up. And she was playing with her kid in the playground, and she was, I think she was like 17 and a half or 18 stone at the time. And her kid ran away from her, and the park was near a main road. So this woman, she got up and she screamed, and her kid stopped. But in her head, she said to herself, Jesus, I wouldn't have been able to run after her. Like, she wasn't in any way, shape or form fit at the time. So for her, that fired something up in her to, like, you know, just kind of kickstart that journey. The fact that she wasn't able to chase after her child. So that's what I mean by emotional connection to the goal. If she didn't lose weight, she felt she wouldn't be able to protect her child to a certain extent. With my client Stacey, she had a lot of emotional attachment to things that went on in her life. And it wasn't until she dealt with that emotional baggage that she could allow herself to let go of the emotional baggage that was holding her back. And in letting go of that, she is allowing herself to lose weight. So she has an emotional attachment in that sense as well. So if you find something that you're really passionate about and emotional about, and there's some attachment to it, that's what makes a goal more achievable. For me, like, the reason I train and do things is I get very obsessive. So when it comes to training kind of goals and stuff like that, if I find something I enjoy, because I guess in school there wasn't a lot that I enjoyed. So when it came to PE, I hated football, I hated rugby, I hated basketball. So there was no sports that I wanted to play. But then when I found weight training and stuff like that, I really got into that. When I found martial arts, I really got into that. So when I find things that I do like, I get very obsessive. So I guess in a way, my goals and stuff are a way of controlling those kind of obsessions a little bit. So for me, when I find something I like, I just go head in anyway, and that becomes my kind of focal point. So when it comes to my business goals, I have to focus on the emotional attachment. So the emotional attachment to me is supporting my family and so on and so on. So, like, you know, if I do not improve my business, if I do not take in this and blah, 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 then I cannot support my family and so on. So that's my emotional attachment. And that's why, obviously, that's what makes me work harder and actually work on a daily basis. The thing about being a personal trainer is you get to pick and choose when you work and how hard you work. So if you just leave it at that and don't have any emotional attachment to being, you know, improving your business, you know, sometimes the business can fail. So you have to find the emotional attachment in the goals there. So finding an emotional attachment is very important when it comes to achieving goals and actually working hard at goals. So that's the number one thing when it comes to goals, is finding an emotional attachment, and that will make it that little bit easier with actually achieving it, because there's a reason behind it. Okay. All right, guys. Unless you have any more questions, I think I will leave it at that for today. I don't want to hold you up too long on your Saturday morning. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I will be popping up the recording a little bit later on for everybody else who wants to see it. And if anybody has any questions, they can post underneath or send them on to me. Okay. Yeah, that's it, guys.
Thanks, really, Mark.
No bother, guys. I will talk to you during the week. Okay. Have a good weekend.
Thanks again.
No bother. See you. Thanks for joining in. Talk to you soon, guys.